Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke, as we continue our series, Conversations on COVID-19, a look at how our local area is responding to the coronavirus. And of course, a primary concern for any of us is health and safety. Those are first, most, and paramount concerns for us. Secondary concerns, of course, as we're getting close to the fall, schools, how are they going to reopen again? High school sports, how is that going to happen again? And the periphery kind of stuff that people have been talking about, number one, Knoebels. Well, we know they opened yesterday. And number two, interestingly, Bloomsburg Fair, the biggest event in our area, many would argue. Well, we got kind of an answer this week, or was it last week, from the Bloomsburg Fair. And joining us now is the superintendent of grandstand, Brian Wawroski. Brian, welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
So, Brian, it's not that the fair ever put out an official statement that said, we're closing, or in this case said, we are definitely opening. You kind of along the lines just basically said, we haven't canceled. Is that about right?
That is about right. We haven't canceled. We still haven't canceled, and we still don't plan on canceling. Our board has been meeting, all the way through since March, talking about this, and we put a deadline on of July 31st. As our deadline to make a decision. And leading into that, as you know, the COVID guidelines and everything changes daily. But we're pretty much committed to having a fair this year. To what extent the fair is going to be, who knows that yet? There's a lot of time left.
Okay. So you realized right from the start, back in March, that this would have an effect on the fair.
We were hoping not. Like everybody in the world, we were hoping this was going to be a 2-4 week event, and our lives would get back to normal. But I think we all have a new normal. So we've been taking the precautions, and looking into the COVID guidelines daily, weekly. So we're prepared.
So I saw the thing about the vendors, and then I saw something on the Facebook about weekly passes. Is that how you normally start the process of getting ready for the fair each year, sending out those things?
Yeah, typically the concessionaires packets would go out April, early May. So we were late this year, holding them off, pending a decision if we had to make a decision, applied by government. But, again, with all the guidelines coming out and the Knoebels opening up and Disney World and the way the things that they're using for guidelines, we've kind of mocked those up in our environment, and we feel as though we can put the fair on in a safe manner.
So you've been staying up to speed with all the CDC recommendations, all the state health regulations and all that stuff?
Yeah, as well as possible. Again, they change daily, so are we missing some? No, I don't think we are. The main things that we're seeing now, we just had one released yesterday, I believe, in our state where the health department said we have to wear masks all the time when we leave our house now. So that, let's see where that plays out, in the next week or so. We don't know anything about that at this point. But yes, we have been, and really it's about social distancing, hand washing, hand sanitizing, no groups, just, more than 250, which is a gray area to all of us. What does that really mean? And so we've chose to use the guidelines that the parks are using. The parks, I'm assuming, they've had it approved by the state. And that 250 rule, there's actually a formula being used for that. And in our world at the fair, that would allow us to have 40,000 people on the grounds at once. So we have a way we can monitor that. We know how many people are in there, coming through with tickets. The trick will be for us to know how many are leaving, and we're already working on that.
Oh, so let's get right into that. So what are some of the things, now obviously you talked about right there about the number of people, what are some of the things that you've determined that you absolutely have to do to pull off the fair this year?
Well, and again, it's all work in progress yet. We're talking, we can't have lines. We have to minimize the lines, and we always have a problem with lines, coming into the fairgrounds, and we want to eliminate those. So we're not eliminate. We have to reduce them. So we're already working on ideas, to get people in at different times through the course of the day so we don't have those backed up lines. So that's one thing we're doing. Number two, the concessionaires packets did go out, as you know, and seen. So we really need to know how many concessionaires are going to back off this year. If you've seen the letter, we're not punishing any vendors that won't come this year because of COVID. We are encouraging them to come, but we're suspecting, we're going to have a reduced amount of concessionaires. So based on that, then we'll spread the concessions out, safe distance. There's a couple of them that probably don't need spaced out, but there's some that we can space out. So those are things. Hand wash stations. We talk about buildings. Buildings we know can only have 250 people in the buildings. So we're taking a look at what we're going to do with our buildings. Are we going to consolidate some buildings? What are we going to do with those so we can monitor that we only have 250 or less in those buildings and everybody is safe.
And masks, I imagine, will play a large role. Will masks be required to get on the grounds?
Yes, and per COVID guidelines, yes, we're going to ask for masks to be worn when they come in the fairgrounds. Correct. That's one of the things we'll do. We'll have hand sanitizer stations throughout. Our maintenance department has been working vigorously on setting up hand wash stations and also hand sanitizing stations. We plan on having additional hand washing areas put out through the fairgrounds for more of those stations to be available.
So how do you monitor? You always draw huge crowds. How do you monitor to make sure people are following your guidelines?
Well, we're going to have to trust. We're going to have to trust the ability of people themselves. We can tell them 6 foot social distancing. You can tell them everything, and we're going to keep reminding them of that. And we're going to have staff walking around our security and those people, safety people. We'll have them walking around. If we see people ganging up, we're going to have to ask them to separate a little bit. And it's just constant reminders is what we're planning on doing.
So are you planning some sort of public information campaign about this?
Yeah, when we get a little closer to the fair, we will be doing that, yes.
So have you been you talked about CDC and state health, and have you been turning to other places for guidance? I don't know if there's a fair association that's also helping you guys out with what you can possibly do.
Yeah, there is. There's the International Fair Association, and there's emails flying around every day, on what some people are doing, what some people aren't doing. As you know, there's a lot of fairs canceling, but across the country, there are a few that are opening. And yes, we're all bouncing ideas off of each other to see what the next one's doing. And there are a couple of fairs, not right here in our area, that have come up with great plans. And, obviously we're modeling around them. We have a few of our directors that are heading to Hershey next week to go to the park and see what's going on there. I met with one of Hershey's personnel 2 days ago and quizzed her, just on what they're doing. And I learned a lot from that. And, we'll be looking at Knoebels. We'll be talking to Knoebels. We'll see how that goes. What are they doing? And how are they preventing it? So yes, it's we're learning each day.
So all those things you just talked about, is that why you think that you were able to do this when so many other events, including fairs, have canceled?
Yeah, our first indication is back in March. We said, my gosh, we're late September, early October. We got to wait this out. We don't want to make a decision so early. And, hoping that once July got here, that we would be able to see some other events happening, witness them, watch them, learn from them, and then make the best for the fair.
Okay, so go ahead.
We have the monster truck show coming up here in a week and a half, and been working very closely with them with their guidelines. I mean, they're very, very particular, which is very good. That's what we want. And they've been taking a lot of precautions and putting their guidelines in place. So we'll be working hand in hand with that show and see how that goes and making adjustments, I'm sure, as we go.
So that's kind of like almost a test run for you guys.
It is a test run. It's a test run for our fairgrounds and the facilities. Yes, it is.
Have you been having other, I know there's a farmer's market down there now. Have you been having other events throughout the spring that have also gone well?
Yes. 2 weeks ago, the gun show was there. What do they have? 2 or 3 buildings. Good crowds, no problems. The farmers market's been there. Hundreds of people there without any problems. That's been going on now, about 5 weeks, I believe. So no problems there either. We also have the Fireman's Carnival. We're hosting a Fireman's Carnival the weekend after this. I think it's the 17th and 18th. Since all the carnivals in the area, Columbia and Montour County, basically all canceled theirs because of the smaller areas, we wanted to reach out as the fair and help the fire companies so they can raise money with our bigger grounds. So we planned that event. We can separate their stands. Each carnival has their own thing they sell and make money on that very prosperous for them. And like such as Millville Carnival with their caramel corn. So they'll bring that stand there along with, I think we have 11 or 12 other fire companies that are gonna bring their wares, and it should be a good time. And we're having fireworks that night for them also. But it's all about the fire companies. So that'll be a good test for us also.
So we talked about vendors, we talked about the exhibit buildings, and now we'll get into your wheelhouse, which is the grandstand. How are you going to limit crowds for that? Is there a way to limit crowds for that? I also understand 3 of your acts are no longer coming. So talk about that.
Yeah, it was a hard decision to make. We waited as long as we possibly could to see where this COVID went. But those 3 shows are very big shows, and they range anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000 for those 3 shows. And doing the math and the seating charts, in order to pay the bills for those 3 shows, we wouldn't have been able to social distance, and that wouldn't have been good, for the public. So we made a decision with the entertainers, and they agreed completely that, and it's been going on across the nation. So we're not canceling the shows, we're postponing the shows into our next fair. So all those shows, those 3 shows are going to play at our fair in 2021.
And that was Chicago, and the other 2 were?
John Party, Friday night. He was there the first Friday night. And Brad Paisley was scheduled for Sunday night. And then Chicago was scheduled for Friday night. So we moved, and also production cost, with this, we consolidated. We don't have any entertainment, if you will, stage entertainment till Tuesday with Pat Benatar. So we've eliminated the production cost for the stage for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, basically. So we don't have any production costs involved, which saves quite a bit of money.
So does that mean you still have 4 or 3 more acts performing?
Here's what we have right now, and we're working on some others. So we have Friday night is open right now. Saturday night is the truck and tractor pull. Sunday night's going to be a truck pull, which the locals can bring their trucks and pull the weights, and I guess there's some professionals that run that also. But so Sunday night, or actually Sunday afternoon, 3:30 will be an open truck pull. Monday night we're open. Tuesday night, Pat Benatar. Wednesday night we have the demo derby. Thursday night is the Christian rock band Crowder, and it also has a local band that was invited to play with them. And then Friday night we moved Darcy Lynn from Monday night. She's now going to be there Friday night to entertain the crowd. And Saturday night, something new that we're going to try. We've been talking about it and hearing about it for a couple of years, and everybody's been asking to try it. Well, here it comes. We're going to actually do a battle of the bands. So we're involving radio stations, DJs to do judging, and we're going to invite bands to audition, basically, to play on the big stage. And we're going to select 8 bands. Genre don't matter. And then we're going to put them on there. They're going to have their fame at the Bloomsburg Fair under the big lights. And then we'll select some winners from that. So that's pretty exciting.
So as far as grandstand performers and even vendors, I know you said you talked about it July 31st. Is that your drop dead decision time is July 31st?
It is. Yes, it is, because in fairness to the vendors, the carnival rides and everything, if that's basically giving them 2 months to prepare, and it wouldn't be fair to those people to make them wait any longer. So we will make a decision by July 31st. But I'm telling you now that we're going to have a fair.
Okay.
Yep, we're going to have a fair. Unless the government shuts us completely down, Bloomsburg is going to have a fair at some capacity.
Have you been in touch with the government, the state government at all as you move forward, if you've gone through this process, just to bounce things off them?
Yeah, actually, Dave Millard, which is a state rep,
Yes, that's
he's on
true.
the House. Yep, he's on our board also, so he keeps us apprised of what's going on, as well as he can, on a day-to-day basis. So yes, we've been in constant contact with him, obviously, and also others, and just following this thing through. And as we all know, we say we're going to have a fair, but obviously, if the COVID turns and gets worse, which we pray to God that it don't, we're not going to be dumb either. We have to make certain that the public is safe.
Will parking be different?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't know why it would be, other than the fact of maybe spacing them out farther. I don't see that to be an issue, truthfully.
Okay. So I believe the only time the fair has been canceled, correct me if I'm wrong, was after the 2011 flood.
That's correct.
That took the fair a while to recover from financially. So would you have expected the same kind of hit this year if you didn't hold it financially?
No, probably not, because when the flood hit in 2011, we had a lot of internal damage to the fairgrounds. There was over $1 million worth of damage that had to be repaired, on the fairgrounds. So we won't suffer that. We're going to suffer the loss of the income, and it's like anybody else in our country today. We're all suffering in one way or another. So we're prepared for it. We don't like it, we don't want it, but we are prepared, to move forward.
So how you talked about limiting exhibit building attendance. How do you do that? Do you just monitor at the door, going in and people going in and going out?
Sure, we would have fair staff, counting going in, counting coming out. That shouldn't be that hard of a that shouldn't be difficult at all.
And I know the livestock buildings on the south end of the fair. Are you still going to have the agricultural aspect, the animals there, the dog show and stuff like that?
Yes, as you know, probably the 4-H, they've canceled all their programs for this year, but a lot of those kids already had animals purchased, to show. So what we've decided to do is, call it an open show that they can still come and show their animals. I'm certain it's going to be reduced, but yes, we still plan on having animals.
So since the Facebook post went out about passes and you kept saying you're not canceling, how's the community support been?
The community support's been good. Obviously there are some negative comments out there, but generally, after our announcement of the shows on what was that, Tuesday, we announced that, or Wednesday, and we also made another announcement earlier in the week about the fair, and we're still moving forward. It's been pretty positive. As anybody, we just need to make certain that the public is safe, and as long as I think the general public knows that we're taking the precautions and not just opening the fair wide open, I think we're going to be fine.
Okay. So real quick, we've been ending our interviews by asking how people are handling this whole situation personally. So Brian, how have you been doing over the past 3 or 4 months with this whole COVID thing?
Personally, I'm fine, and and you just said it. Everybody handles it very much differently, and we're all learning how to cope, and not just cope with ourselves, but cope with our peers, our family, and whatever, because everybody handles it a little differently, and we have to be very patient and considerate in different ways. Personally, I'm taking the approach, you don't be stupid. You wear the mask where it's required, or when you're in groups, I stay away from groups as much as you possibly can, the touching and hand washing. So I'm taking it pretty well. My business, we're an essential business, and we've moved through it, since the beginning. We only had the 1 day off when it was announced, and we've moved through it here. We talk about it weekly, about social distancing, and if anybody was sick or what have you, you stay home. So we're taking all the precautions, and that's personally, that's what I'm doing also.
Okay, Brian Wawroski, the superintendent of grandstand for the Bloomsburg Fair. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and we will look forward to an announcement around July 31st that there is going to be a fair. And we certainly hope that it's able to be pulled off this year.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're going to make an announcement that we're having a fair because we've already announced we're having the fair. I just
Okay.
hope we don't have to announce that we're not having a fair.
Gotcha. I get the specificity there. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Yes, thank you. You have a good holiday weekend.
You too as well.
Stay safe,
And
everybody.
we will be right back.